Imagine this, the man who snatched victory from the jaws of defeat for the British and Irish Lions, diving over the line in Melbourne's dying seconds to seal a historic series win against the Wallabies, now faces the cruelest twist of fate. Hugo Keenan, the unbreakable fullback whose name echoed through stadiums like a battle cry, has been banished from the pitch until 2026. Not a minor setback, but a full-scale exile after hip surgery that ripped the heart out of Leinster's dreams. What if I told you this wasn't just bad luck, but a storm brewing from months of hidden agony, amplified by the relentless grind of glory? Hold on tight, because as we unravel this saga of triumph turned tragedy, you'll discover how one Leinster decision made it all catastrophically worse, threatening to derail an entire season. But before we dive deeper, smash that like button if you're as gutted as I am, subscribe to Aussie NRL updates for your daily dose of rugby heartbreak and heroics, and drop a comment. Could Keenan ever reclaim his throne? Your voice fuels the fire. Let's charge ahead. From the sun-baked fields of Australia, where dust clung to sweat-soaked jerseys and the roar of 80,000 fans drowned out the pain, Hugo Keenan's legend was forged in fire. Picture him, the 29-year-old Irish phenom, shrugging off a calf tear and a vicious stomach bug that left him bedridden for days, his body a battlefield of viruses and doubts. Yet there he was, in the third test, eyes locked on that corner flag, teammates screaming for the ball as the clock ticked mercilessly towards zero. He bursts through, evading tackles like a ghost in the machine, and plants the ball down. Series 1, Lions immortalized. The world hailed him as the hero who turned whispers of defeat into thunderous anthems. But beneath the celebrations, a shadow lurked, a hip injury, nagging like an uninvited guest at the victory party. It had whispered warnings before the tour, dismissed as mere wear and tear in the high-stakes world of professional rugby. Leinster's medical team, ever the optimists, greenlit his departure down under, believing rest would follow glory. Oh, how that choice would haunt them. As Keenan's plane touched down in Dublin, the pain wasn't a whisper anymore. It was a scream, demanding surgery that would sideline him for months. Leinster coach Leo Cullen's face said it all during that open training session in Grayston's. Steady progress, he claimed, but the truth? No action until the new year, missing Ireland's Autumn Nations series clashes against New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa. Fans clutched their hearts, wondering if the man who embodied resilience had finally met his match. And just when you think that's the gut punch, wait for the ripple effect on his club, because Leinster's woes were only beginning, with another star about to fall harder than expected. What hidden fracture in their strategy exposed these warriors to such ruin? Stick around. The plot thickens in ways that will leave you reeling. Leinster's camp, usually a fortress of blue unbreakable spirit, now resembled a war room after a siege. The Lions tour, that glittering odyssey of red jerseys conquering the outback, returned not with spoils but with casualties that could cripple a dynasty. Hugo Keenan, the fullback whose positioning read the game like a poet deciphers stars, lay in recovery, his hip rebuilt but his timeline shattered. Surgery post-tour addressed a pre-existing issue, one that had flared subtly during Leinster's grueling pre-season, yet was masked by the adrenaline of selection. Cullen's update hit like a rogue wave, out until 2026, the calendar flipping mercilessly while teammates lace up for the United Rugby Championship opener in South Africa. No Stormers showdown, no Bulls brutality, just rehab representatives under fluorescent lights, each step a reminder of glory's double-edged sword. But here's the shocker that no one saw coming. The Leinster machine, in its quest to balance international duties with domestic dominance, had pushed the envelope too far. Decisions to deploy key players through niggles, prioritizing the Lions' call over long-term health, now boomeranged with vicious force. Whispers from the dressing room paint a picture of ignored scans, of physios playing whack-a-mole with symptoms rather than uprooting causes. Keenan's exile isn't isolated. It's the canary in the coal mine for a province that's bled talent to the green of Ireland and the red of the Lions. And as the dust settles on his operating table, enter the star forward whose update turns despair into dread. Joe McCarthy, the towering lock whose line-out steals were poetry in motion during the tour's early skirmishes, now grapples with a foot injury that refused to heal quietly. What started as a tour niggle has metastasized, aggravated by Leinster's premature push for his return. Cullen's words cut deep. He'll miss the first block of games, his November dreams dangling by a thread. Surprise! This isn't just bad fortune, it's a systemic flaw exposed, where the pursuit of perfection bred peril. How deep does this injury crisis burrow into Leinster's soul? The next chapter reveals a captain's defiant stand that could salvage, or sink, them all deep in the salt-kissed air of Grayston's RFC, where young fans' cheers clashed with the grim undertones of press briefings. Leo Cullen stood like a general surveying decimated ranks. The Lions' triumphant echo still hummed, but reality crashed in. Hugo Keenan's hip, that silent saboteur, had demanded its due. Post-tour knife work promised renewal, yet the prognosis was a dagger. 2026 before boots hit turf again. Leinster's South African safari, a brutal baptism against Stormers and Bulls, would rage on without their talismanic fullback, his absence a void wider than the Indian Ocean they crossed. Storytelling this saga feels like chronicling a fallen king's exile. Keenan, once the spark igniting Leinster's 6 URC titles, now watches from the sidelines, his Olympic Sevens pedigree and Ireland caps collecting dust. The surprise twist? Leinster's issue didn't just linger. It exploded, courtesy of a star forward whose resilience cracked under pressure. Joe McCarthy, the 23-year-old colossus whose Lions bench cameos hinted at a future captaincy, limped back from Australia with a foot fracture that defied healing. What made it worse? Leinster's insistence on rushing him through pre-season drills, ignoring the tour's toll, turning a manageable mend into a marathon of misery. Cullen's candid drop, aggravated anew, McCarthy's sideline for the season's dawn, his November internationals a flickering maybe. Fans gasped. This was no lone wolf. It was a pack hunted by their own haste. Yet amid the wreckage, a glimmer. Sorellen Doris, Leinster's iron-willed captain, eyes a November resurrection from his own shoulder scars. Missed the Lions due to Champions Cup cruelty against Northampton, Doris now embodies hope's quiet roar, his return a potential anchor in the storm. But cliffhanger alert. With Gary Ringrose and James Ryan nursing head knocks from Sydney savagery, is Leinster's depth a mirage? As contract extensions for coaches Ninaba, McBride, and Blayendale signal long-term faith till 2027, the question burns, can they rebuild before the vultures circle? Hey, if this tale of rugby's raw underbelly has you hooked, you're in the right place. Welcome to the heart of Aussie NRL updates, where we chase the game's pulse from Dublin to down under. Don't miss a beat. As the autumn leaves swirl over Dublin's pitches, Leinster's narrative arcs toward redemption or ruin, with Hugo Keenan's shadow looming largest. The fullback Sip saga, born in the pre-tour grind and birthed in surgical steel, strips away the romance of his Melbourne miracle. That try, a silhouette against floodlights, now feels like Icarus's final